though. So I'm the woman who said no to the Beckhams. Yeah, so I my eyes were opened at a very young age. I used to do this with my party trick when I had friends round, is that I could log into my computer at work from home and I could ring my work phone to make it ring my house phone. And that was in 2000.
Do you find it lonely?
Yeah, I guess so. But I do love manufacturing.
Do we honestly care that we've got a skill shortage?
Science.
You want to get into it?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Whenever you're ready. Yeah, okay.
Go for it.
Do you want to introduce yourself then? Start there?
I can do.
Yeah, go on then.
So, where's the camera?
You don't need to do it. Just talk to me.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't worry about the camera.
Okay, so I'm Angela. My business is Marvellous Manufacturing. And I guess I started this up primarily because every event I went to, the conversation would turn to skill shortages, the lack of young people coming through into manufacturing and engineering. And as somebody who's really passionate about manufacturing, having spent several years at Jaguar Land Rover, down on the production lines, with the line builders and the engineers, absolutely love my job. Somebody who's so passionate about manufacturing, I couldn't understand why young people weren't interested.
Yeah.
To me, it just didn't seem right. So I started talking to the careers leaders, saying, what's going on here? And the message that came back was, we don't know anything about manufacturing, so we don't talk about it. We don't get manufacturers or engineers coming to our school. We have students who want to be engineers, but we don't know anything about the different types of engineers, so we can't advise them. And so I went back to the manufacturers and said, what's going on here? Why aren't you going and engaging? And the message from them was, we just don't have time. We don't have time to go and engage with schools. So this is where I thought, can I plug that gap?
Mm-hmm.
My husband says, and you can't change the world. And I say, I'll give it a damn good try. So this is really why I set up Marvellous Manufacturing. I wanted to help manufacturers get into schools, tell the students, local schools, tell the students about all the great careers options that there are within manufacturing and engineering, and help them to start to line up their future talent pool.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's a fantastic intro. I think straight away the viewers will think, wow, she really is passionate. Let's go back then, right back to the start.
Yeah.
Where did you live? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So I was quite lucky, really, because I was brought up in a place called Streatley, which was a really nice area, very community-minded, and quite interestingly, most of the people I went to school with still live in Streatley. So I was lucky. The school I went to was a fairly good school as well. However, when it came to us taking our options, I wanted to do technical drawing, and I was told I couldn't because I was a girl. Yeah, I know. And years later, after I'd had my children, I actually went and did a 2-year course at a local college in interior design. And while I did that, I actually learned how to do technical drawing and absolutely loved it. And I'm quite sad, really, because I think if I had been able to do technical drawing, I think I probably would have perhaps been an architect. I love buildings, they fascinate me. I love design. So maybe that's a route I would have gone down. But yeah, I guess ambitions when I was a teenager, it was really difficult in those days. Bearing in mind, I'm quite old. But it was difficult in those days because, like today, we didn't have the careers advice, And in those days, it was only the really clever students that stayed on at sixth form or went to uni. Everybody else was expected to leave school. So you'd probably have about 1% of students would stay on to do sixth form. The rest of us, you either went into a shop, an office, or a factory. And those were the options.
Yeah.
I did think about going to college to do art, but my artwork wasn't good enough. I'm not a natural artist. I have to work hard at it. I love it, but I have to work hard at it. So that wasn't an option. So it was really difficult.
So what did you do after school then?
What did I do? I ended up in an office.
Okay.
Again, during my exams, I was working at British Home Stores, our local British Home Stores, in the restaurant. Did really well in there, and in actual fact, although I was only 16, they put me in charge of one of the kitchens over women that have been there years. So when I finished my exams, they offered me a full-time job there. I was absolutely cock-a-hoot because I loved my job. Went home, told my mum, and she said, "No, you're not working there. You've got to go to an office."
And how did that make you feel?
Quite sad, really.
Yeah.
But in those days, you did what you were told.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up in the office.
And what was the office job?
It was, they were known as Magnet Joinery in the old days, but it's Magnet Southerns now, I think. But it was, there was a big warehouse full of wooden doors and architrave and skirting, and we used to get all the builders in, chatting me up. And I was there in the little office. There was a little office stuck up the corner of this warehouse. I was there a month, and then I managed to get a job at a box manufacturer in Hockler.
Okay.
So they used to manufacture cardboard and plastic boxes. Again, I was working in the office, but used to love to go up into the factory, a factory full of women in those days. Yeah, used to love to go up in the factory, have a laugh with the girls and the foremen up there, you know. And it was good. We had some very unusual objects sent in to make boxes for, particularly for some of the sex shops around.
I knew that's where it was going. I had a feeling.
Yeah, so I my eyes were opened at a very young age. Luckily, I haven't got a sensitive nature.
Yeah, I can tell.
So that was quite interesting. So I did a couple of years there, and then my sister-in-law was temping, and she suggested I go and do some temp work because I could earn more money. So I ended up at Britax Weather Shields. They used to fit sunroofs into cars in the days when everybody went mad on having a sunroof in the car. So, and from there I travelled around quite so many different types of businesses, you know, so many different jobs, all in the office obviously, but manufacturers, car dealers, showrooms, all sorts. And it was really good because it gives you a good outlook on life. And for me, one of the things I always did when I went to do a temp job was I would ask other people in that office, what job are you doing? How do you do it? Will you show me? Because I wanted to learn all the time. The more I learned, the more I could go back to the temp agency and say, I can do this now. I can do that now.
Yeah.
So I got better assignments and I got better pay through doing that. So, yeah, it was good. I enjoyed my temp years because you always knew whenever you were sent to an assignment, they were desperate for you by the time you got there. So they really appreciated you. So, yeah.
Is there anything that stuck with you from them years, apart from the sex toys, obviously? Any key moments that have stuck with you that you sort of carried throughout your career?
No, I don't think it was really. I think it was just more the learning.
Yeah.
And I have carried that through, and it's something I instilled in my kids as well. Always, you know, when you go into a job, always ask, how are you doing that job? What are you doing? Always try and learn from your colleagues. Mm-hmm. Because it adds bonus points to your CV. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
No, that's brilliant advice. I suppose you use that same advice when you're talking to schools now.
Yeah.
Something that we talk about in most of the podcasts is that to be successful in this industry, you need to be curious about things.
Oh, yeah.
You need to want to learn how things work.
Absolutely. And I think as well, particularly when you're at school, and again, this is something I instilled in my kids, extracurricular activities, really important. My youngest daughter in particular, she used to go and help out at the local brownies every week. She helped out in the drama class in school. She did a couple of volunteer things, helping with dogs and that sort of thing. So that when she actually finished school, she got a whole rake of stuff to put on her CV that she'd done. And that she's never been out of work, you know. That is what sort of set her up and set her on the right path to start off with. Her first job was with Tua, you know, and they were impressed with us, Eva. Simple as that.
Yeah. So let's work our way through your career. We see all these temp jobs. I noticed on LinkedIn there was an 11-year spell at a consultancy. Is that right, Marks?
Oh, insurance.
Insurance.
Yeah, so what happened was, obviously, once the kids came along, like any mom, it was a case of fitting in, working part-time where I could, you know, around school and what have you. And that was at the time that I was doing this interior design course. So I was sent for 3 days to work for Frank Marks because his secretary was off. And I don't know what happened, but I just picked up insurance really quickly. And he was astonished, and he kept saying to me, "You sure you've never worked in insurance before?" And I'm like, "No." But I picked it up really quickly, so much so that he offered me a full-time job there and then. And as I say, I was doing my interior design course with the intention of setting up as an interior designer. So I thought I'll finish the course and see what happens with the insurance job, and then I'll make a decision once I've finished the course. But by the time I'd finished the course, I was just doing so well in insurance. And I think he gave me a pay rise once a month. He was just, he was that impressed with me. He just kept putting my wages up all the time, anything to keep me, you know. So yeah, it was interesting. And what was really interesting was he was very forward thinking. He liked change. I liked change.
Yep.
As soon as we'd change something and the dust would settle, he'd throw the cards up in the air again. And it was great. And we both loved progression. We both loved technology. So we were constantly pushing ahead all the time. So in 1999, we went paperless. That was 1999. And it was brilliant to get the business to that stage where we were completely paperless. In 2000, I used to do this with my party trip when we had friends round, is that I could log into my computer at work from home and I could ring my work phone to make it ring my house phone. And that was in 2000. And people just, how did you do that? And it was great because with Frank, he understood that I wanted to be there for my kids because I was never one of these mums that would work full time because I wanted to drop them at school and I wanted to pick them up again. So I suppose I sort of wrecked the possibility of having a good career really because of that. But for me, my kids, I like spending time with them, you know.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And Frank understood that and he was really good. So during school holidays, I could work from home. We'd got the computer set up so I could log in. And it was great because it meant I could get the kids, have their friends round, get them in the garden playing. I could get on with my work, you know.
You were working from home before working from home was cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that mindset actually, you know, you're talking about that you do like change, puts you in a completely different pool of potential employees than, you know, the vast majority of workforce because people don't like change.
No, I know.
It's the hardest thing you have to deal with, you know, as a business owner. Yeah. People stick with the status quo. You could spend months and months trying to convince someone to change something, and you think you finally got them on the hook, and then, you know, the easiest option for them is always to just stay with the same.
Yeah, and yet for me, change brings excitement.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I love it. You know, what can we do next? How can we push this forward? What can we get out of this? You know. Okay, we might change something and it might all fall apart. But it's just a case of, oh, okay, that didn't work. Yeah. Let's regroup. Yeah. See where we went wrong. We'll try something different.
Yeah, and you would learn from that. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So let's talk about JLR, because that's a big portion of your career. So how did you get into JLR? Because that's a different industry to insurance.
It is, and what happened was I realised my career in insurance wasn't going anywhere. I left Frank Marks because I wanted to go out and we were a very small brokerage, but we had big clients, big money clients. And I was always wanted to know what's it like out there in the corporate world of insurance. So I went out and tried to experience that, but soon realised that unless I knew how to play golf, my career was never going to go any further in insurance. And I got really, really disillusioned with that, you know. So I walked away and I thought, I need to do something else. So I went back to do some temping work while I was having to think about what I wanted to do. That was actually quite a nice period in my life because I ended up at, it's called the Pet Centre. So it was based over at the QE, Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And what they were doing was they would do full body scans for cancer. So I was actually working in the office. I was working with the patients as they were coming in, booking them in and that sort of thing, talking to them on the phone. And it really pulls you up, talking to people who are facing something that could take their life, who are coming in for a scan to find out how bad is their cancer, how they got cancer. And it really makes you stop in your tracks and think about, I'm actually really quite lucky with what, you know, what's going on in my life sort of thing. So for me, it was quite good to experience that, you know. So I was there for a few months, and then a friend of mine, she was working at Jaguar Land Rover. She would do all the manpower recruitment for the production line staff. And she phoned me up and she said, do you fancy a month's work at Jaguar Land Rover? I said, oh, go on then, why not? So I actually ended up in the environmental team for a month. They were trying to encourage people to cycle to work, or JLR had got buses, so they used to run buses from Birmingham Airport to Gaydon and to Whitlow. They were trying to encourage people to use those buses rather than driving in. So part of my remit while I was there for the month was to go into the canteen and just walk around people and talking to them, saying, do you know about the buses? Have you thought about travelling greener to work? And it was quite good, actually. And you know me, I'm an outgoing person, so it's easy for me to go and talk to people. And I think some of the senior directors were quite shocked at having somebody, because I didn't know who they were, whereas everybody else is sort of very reverent towards them. And I'd just go up to them, why aren't you using the buses? So I quite enjoyed that. And then that came to an end. As I say, it was only for a month. And they asked me to go and work in the HR team at Solihull for 6 months. So I was doing all the data access requests for solicitors and things like that. So I went to work to the HR team and really enjoyed that. And then I found out that they've got a corporate insurance team. So I emailed the manager and said, my 6 months is coming to an end. I don't suppose you need anybody in your team. And he said, yeah, actually we do. So I ended up going and doing 2 years in corporate insurance. That was fascinating. That was absolutely fascinating because we were obviously, there's so many aspects to that. So, for example, the Beckhams have got Land Rovers and Range Rovers. So the request came in that they wanted, they had a young lad working for them who was 18 and they wanted him to drive these vehicles. I was like, no, absolutely not. No, so I'm the woman who said no to the Beckhams. But we would often get requests like that, you know, for celebrities and what have you. And then when they would work on things like, I don't know whether you remember, they did the loop with the Range Rover. So I had to work with the marketing and PR team on the insurance aspects of that, you know, which was good. And then latterly, while I was in that team, I was then put in charge of the 22 overseas offices. So those are scattered all around the world. And obviously we've got vehicle movements going on over there and we've got compounds where our vehicles are. So that was, and I had to set up a system of reporting those vehicles and vehicle compounds for the different offices. But the best thing was that it was learning about insurances in foreign countries because it's so different to here. So that was a huge, huge learning curve. And obviously we've got language barriers as well, you know, talking to the different countries. I really, really enjoyed it, really enjoyed my time there. And then they opened up, because I was only temporary, I was a contractor, they opened it up as a permanent vacancy. But by that time, I'd sort of thought, I was travelling to Gaydon every day. And it was an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back every day. And I just had enough of the travelling. And I thought, no, I think I'm done here. So I went off to try and find sort of like a semi-retirement. Ended up at the Belfry.
Yeah.
As the lost property officer.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. That's an interesting job.
It was a very interesting
You find all sorts
job.
at a Belfry.
Oh, don't even get me started. Unbelievable, honestly, what you find there. But yeah, I did that for 12 months and that was quite fun, and it was nice because it's such a beautiful setting. It was really nice to go to work every morning, park up the car, and then walk in amongst all the grass and the trees and that, it was lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, enjoyed that. Did that for 12 months, and then a friend of mine got in touch and said, my friend works at JLR and she's looking to take somebody on, would you be interested? So I said, oh, I'll have a look at it, So sent my CV in, and then I got asked to go in for what I thought was an informal chat. It wasn't, it was a full-blown interview, and I wasn't ready. I thought, I don't know. But yeah, so I ended up going back to JLR.
Okay, and that's when it got interesting, leading into Marvellous, I suppose, because what was the job? Wasn't you doing?
So I was doing, initially I went there to work with the new production line builds. Yeah. So I would work with the line builders and the engineers, looking at the budget, looking at the costs, making sure that everything was coming in on budget, but then also ordering in things like the safety doors, the robots, the well timers, that sort of thing, making sure that they're coming in on time and that we've got the right spec for what they need, And that was when I realised that we were wasting a hell of a lot of money. So I actually set up the asset reuse scheme for JLR. So I would then go down onto the production line, asset tag catalogue and photograph every piece of kit that we got, and then look at where we could reuse it in the new production line builds or other areas of the business.
Yep.
And just absolutely loved it. I'd crawl around robot cells, try not to lose my hard hat on a gripper, try not to slip on the rivets, and just absolutely loved it, really did. It was hard work, really hard work. And we had some calamities and we had some laughs and met so many different people, so many different people at JLR and external agencies and what have you. It was just brilliant. Really enjoyed it.
Did you start a spin-off company out of that asset reuse?
I didn't. I did when we went into lockdown. And what happened was when we went into lockdown, obviously because I was only a contractor, I had to get rid of all the contractors. Fully understandable, But to work for JLR, I'd had to set up a limited company. So first day we went into lockdown, I thought, well, I've got a limited company, but I don't have a business. I need to earn some money now. I'm not going to get anything from the government because I'm a limited company. Mm-hmm. I've got no furlough. I've got no money coming in. So initially, I set myself up as a virtual assistant.
Okay.
So I was actually helping small businesses, doing their back office for them, doing admin tasks for them, because I thought, well, at least this is something I could do online. I did initially talk to some manufacturers about whether there was possibility of doing asset reuse out in the manufacturing world. And it was then that I realised that we have so many SMEs that isn't there, because I was used to dealing with a big OEM. Yeah. It's a completely different story. Yeah, of course. But the trouble is, when you work for a big business like Jaguar Land Rover, you think all manufacturers are the same. You don't realise, that they're not. So that never went anywhere. So I ended up as a virtual assistant doing some admin work. And then sort of halfway through 2020 realised how much I missed manufacturing, how much I loved it. And that was when I started on the journey to finding out what's going on.
So that day that JLR get rid of the contractors, how did you feel then?
It was all so sudden and so final. It was the 1st of April, and we'd been working from home for the day, and I had an email through at 5 to 6 to say this has been your last working day. Yeah.
Wow, that was it.
Yeah. And of course I was then frantic, because I needed to try and hand my stuff over to my manager. So I ended up working till midnight that night, trying to make sure everything was up to date, hand everything over to her, give them my notes and anything that needed to be followed up on and what have you, you know. It was, I can't say that I didn't cry, because I did, you know. It was quite upsetting. And I think because I put my heart and soul into the whole thing, you know, I really wanted to make this work for JLR. It's really stupid to say this, but I love JLR as a company, rooting for them all the time. And I really wanted to see this work for them, you know. So it was hard, yeah, very much so. But I'm one of these that, you know, I take the knockbacks, let's lick your wounds, and then get back on with it again, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So you obviously had challenges throughout career. I want to know, because it's also something that I deal with, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, what's the hardest part?
Sales. Without a doubt. It's got to be sales. I'm not a salesperson at all. And I found this when I first started going out to talk to manufacturers. I would go and I would have a great conversation with them, like I'm having with you, and I'd talk to them about, you know, it's great to engage with schools, and it's really good for your business, and you know, you can line up future apprentices. And then the conversation would end, and I'd be ready to get my coat on and walk out. And a couple of them said, "Well, what's next? What's the next step?" And I'd be like, "Oh, okay." Very naive, you know, and just didn't realise that actually I should be actually looking at bringing that business in. You know, so that's been a huge learning curve for me.
Okay.
Helped, I must say, by Lee Howarth.
Yep.
I had a session with him, I think about October, November last year, and it was a really good session. He really knows his stuff, you know, and he's really helped me. So he's boosted my confidence. He's given me some tips and some pointers. I'm still not brilliant at it, but I am getting better at it and getting better at following up. And Adam Payne helped me as well, talking about pipeline business and what have you, you know. And so I now take that quite seriously, whereas before I think I was quite flippant about it. Now I realise the importance of it.
Yeah,
you know.
You need to close that deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it still the one thing you struggle with?
Yeah, I think so. I think the rest of it, I'm fine. You know, making those initial connections, talking to people. I love talking to people, and I think I get on well with people, you know. So all of that, I have no problem at all. Doing the work, I absolutely love doing the work, you know, and it's so varied as well. Love doing all that. And I'm hot on my invoicing, you know, and my accounts. That's not a problem. It's just that sales bit. I'm not a salesy person.
Yeah. Do you find it lonely?
Yeah, I guess so. And I have thought quite a bit just recently about whether I could try and share some office space. I think I need. Do you know? It's not just that feeling of loneliness. I've noticed in myself that I've actually lost confidence in myself. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and as I was talking to them about it, that's when I came to the realisation. Because one of the things that I keep thinking about, or I was thinking about, is, you know, getting in touch with these manufacturers. I don't want to disturb them. They might think I'm just some silly little woman, you know, annoying them sort of thing. Now, take me back a couple of years to when I was at JLR. That wouldn't have even crossed my mind. And I was dealing with senior directors. And for me, it's just me and you. Okay, you're a senior director, but that means nothing to me. You know, this is how we do sort of thing. So I think I've lost that confidence by being at home on my own. And that's something that I'm now trying to regain again. But I think working with people and being amongst people, it helps you with your confidence.
It does,
Not just the loneliness.
Yeah. Even the days where I'm not on the phone, I feel I feel like I'm not achieving anything because I'm not talking about anything to anyone. I'm just sat in front of my laptop in my office at home, just writing emails or doing admin, whatever I'm doing. But unless, you know, I think back to when I was a sales engineer, I'd be in the car all day, on the phone all day, speaking to people. Feels like you've got, you know, ideas floating around and you're mentally stimulated. The days that I'm not doing that, I feel lonely. I feel like I'm just stuck. It doesn't matter that I can hear my wife and the baby crying in the background. Like they're not helping me build a business.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And interestingly, one of my LinkedIn connections put a post on LinkedIn the other week, and she's not in manufacturing, she's something totally different. And she did an article about sitting in the comparison pit. And it really resonated with me because prior to that, I'd had about 10 days where I'd actually been sat there without realising it. So reading this article made me rethink and made me realise I don't need to sit in that comparison pit. What I need to do is I need to think about what I'm doing, not what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I need to focus on what I'm doing and celebrate what I actually get done and not be minding about all the wonderful things everybody else is doing, because what's important at the end of the day is me and my clients.
Yep.
Not all these people who are on panels speaking or getting accolades or at award ceremonies, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not what I want anyway. What I want to do is I just want my business to run along. I want to help manufacturers. I want to appeal to young people. That's my goal. And that's where my focus should be, not on what those people are doing there.
I'm smiling because I didn't think about it until you just said it, but I've done the exact same thing maybe 2-3 weeks ago, seen some sort of panel that I would have been perfect on. Right. Yes, I'd have probably disrupted it a little bit with my opinion, but you're looking at it like, why is that person on there? Why haven't I been contacted? Maybe I'm not a big enough name yet. And then I suddenly sort of snapped back into reality and I was like, who cares? Like, there's probably 50 people in that room listening to that person. Who cares? I'm going to build something bigger anyway. Yeah. I'm going to do my own thing. We've got our own mission to be on. Maybe in a couple of years, someone will ring me and say, oh, can you please come and be on this panel? Fine, whatever. But instead of just staring at a LinkedIn post, which you find yourself thinking about then for hours later. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I've got some thinking to do, obviously.
Yes.
So the next part is about the next generation, which of course you're passionate about. That's your business.
Yeah.
I've got loads of questions to ask you, and I've always got questions to ask all the guests, but you're probably one of the best people to answer.
Okay.
One's very controversial, and it's, do we honestly care that we've got a skill shortage? And the reason I'm asking that is because probably the same things you've seen is people will flippantly say, we have this skill shortage, we really need to help, and they'll do nothing about it.
Yeah. Because it's always easier to let somebody else solve the problem.
Yep.
Oh, the government should do something about it. Oh, Make UK should do something about it. No, you should do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not going to line up your future talent pool. They're not going to bring those students into your business. You've got to do that. It's really important. But as I say, for a lot of people, and it's not just manufacturers and it's not just about getting young people, the whole country, you know, people all around the country, you get exactly the same thing. They talk about something, but they don't want to do it. They want somebody else to do something about it. And I always say that in this life, there are those that talk and those that do. I'm a doer, but there are so many talkers.
There are.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I asked if we care, because I've been in lots of conversations where it doesn't matter how big of a brand you talk to. Yes, yeah, we really want to be there. We want to do that. Well, why has it took me, you know, in my spare room at home to do it?
Yeah.
You've got billions of euros in the bank and thousands of employees with this mission for helping the skill shortage? Or is it me?
Yeah.
You know, I've got another 100 things that I need to do that day. Like,
yeah,
it's frustrating.
People just pay lip service.
Yeah.
It's the same with all this, you know, decarbonisation and going green and everything. A lot of it's just lip service.
It is, yeah.
And there's no commitment anymore. And I think we find this in the business and our personal lives. People just won't commit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they may say they're going to commit, but when it actually comes to it, no, I've got something better to do.
Yeah.
You know, or yeah, we were going to do that, but we'll have to put it on hold for 6 months. It's wrong. No.
So what's the biggest frustration then for you as this person going into schools? Is it a yes verbally and a no when it comes to it? Is it just getting through the door? Is it getting...
It's the ostrich thing, isn't it? Burying their heads in the
Yeah.
sand. That's the frustrating thing, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
They know they've got to do something. They know something needs to be done. But sometimes they won't even talk to them, you know, even though they know. And they just bury their heads in the sand and hope it will go away. I'm far too busy. Down goes the head.
Yep.
You know, hopefully it'll go away. If I don't look, it'll go away. No, it's not going to go away. It really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Get your head out of the sand. Do something about it.
So how do we do better? How does who's your perfect customer? Is it an SME or is it a
Women.
big multinational? Women.
Women.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So to the women that are watching, how do they do better?
How do they do better?
How do they support you right now?
Because they actually have a genuine interest. They actually want to do something about it, and because they want to, they follow up. They're more likely to follow up and get in touch with me and get me to work with them. I would say that the majority of my clients are women.
Mm-hmm.
Blokes don't know what it is. You know, I get on well with blokes, I work really well with them, but they just don't seem to follow through. Or they'll get a woman in their business to follow through. But mostly it's women who contact me. Mostly it's women that I work with.
Okay. But we need more of them to contact you.
We need more of them to contact me, yeah, because you're doing great work. I don't know. Is it? I don't know whether it's this thing where, you know, women are more proactive, and I'm going to might be controversial here, but where you get a couple together, a man and a woman together in a relationship, who organises the evenings out with friends, who organises the birthday parties, it's normally the woman that does that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe that's why it's more women that I'm working with, because they're the ones that actually do it rather than say they're going to do it.
Yep. Sure, there'll be lots of comments after this. So I always give all the guests a scenario, but you're already doing it. So I want to know what are you telling the kids when you go into a school? What's your usual pitch? What do you talk about?
First thing I ask is hands up if you've heard of manufacturing. And out of a class full of students, normally about 3 hands go up, which is a shocker. So then I just give them quick overview. Manufacturing is, tell them. And then I put up a slide and I say, if it wasn't for manufacturing, we would all still be living like Neanderthals.
Yep.
We'd have to hunt our own food, so forget KFC. We'd be wearing animal skins, so there wouldn't be any Primark.
Mm.
And you'd have to wash and bathe in the rivers and streams. So there'd be no hair products, no straighteners, no hair dryers. Because if it hasn't been grown or mined, it will have been manufactured.
Yep.
So that is my opening pitch to them. Yeah. It's got to be relatable.
Yeah, of course.
You've got to hit them with that relatability.
Yeah. What's the age range?
It varies. From year 7 up to year 13.
Okay.
I've done. So it really does vary on what the teachers want from you. You know, I went in school in National Apprenticeship Week and delivered a talk about apprenticeships to year 8. I've been into another school where we actually there was a rotation. So we had years 7, 8, 10 and 13 in for the same presentation. So it really does vary.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the feedback from the students?
They normally really enjoy it. They're curious. The only trouble is the older they get, the less questions they ask. So you talk to year 7 and year 8.
Yeah.
They're really bubbly. They're fidgeting in their seats. Their hands are up. You know.
Yeah.
They love it, which is why with a lot of manufacturers, I say you really need to be going and talking to these younger students because they haven't chosen their options yet. This is the ideal time to get them. You know.
Yeah.
Follow them through the school years. Nurture them. By the time they come out, you will be familiar to them. They will want to come and work for you. And just sort of as a side to that, the example I give is if you've been invited to 2 networking events, yeah? The one networking event is one that you've been to several times before. So you know where the venue is, you know where the car park is, you know where the toilets are in the venue, you're probably going to know some people there. The other networking event you've never been to before, which one are you going to choose?
The one that you've been to before.
Yeah, the one that's familiar to you. And it's the same, we're all the same, and it's the same with students. When they're going to start looking for an apprenticeship or for a job, they're going to go with those things that are familiar to them.
Yeah.
And if you're a manufacturer and you're not familiar, you've got no chance.
Yeah. So you've got potentially the future of industry in front of you regularly. What is it about you that you think inspires them?
Probably my passion. I think it does come through, you know. And I keep saying this, but I do love manufacturing. I love everything about it. We have so many different aspects. And I think as well, it's, for me, I don't just talk about STEM. I know there's a lot of STEM providers going to school. I find STEM exclusive because what you're doing is you're excluding the creative students, those that perhaps aren't quite as good at maths and science, but are very creative, very good at working with their hands, who learn on the job. So when I go in, I talk to them about all the different career aspects within manufacturing, which is why I keep using the word manufacturing and not engineering and not STEM, you know, because I think this is important. And I think I've probably said this before. The exams I took at school, they're worthless these days. They're not, nobody has heard of them. When I worked at JLR doing the asset reuse, I could tell you about all the different types of robots, the end effectors, the tool changers. I could tell you, you know, everything about every piece of kit that I worked with. But I'm not an engineer. I learnt on the job. And there are a lot of people who are like me, who are better learning on the job, which is why I think we shouldn't just keep going on about STEM. Did that answer your question or not? I don't think it did. I think I go off on a tangent there.
No, I think it did. I think passion, is the main one.
Yeah, definitely. And bringing those careers to life as well for the students.
Yeah, being relatable. That would be my concern when companies go in. It's not you on their behalf, and they try to sell what they do.
Yes.
And it's a machine, and it's not relatable. Whereas your examples of everyday items that they use, well, of course, children are going to go home and think about that and look around their bedroom, and they're never going to see a machine until they're in the workforce.
Yeah, you know, and a couple of the workshops I've done are making biscuits, so I get them to make biscuits. But I also have got presentations up, and then I talk to them, you know, about health and safety and quality. Well, we don't want to send out biscuits that are going to poison people, you know. And one of the last slides that I do is finance. Now, I know the kids might think, oh, this is maths, this is really boring. But what I actually do, I put up an example. Right, this is your manufacturer. This is how much you've got to pay out in wages. This is how much you've got to pay out in electricity and rent, blah, blah, blah. And I list it all out. And I've just fictitious figures in there, you know. So this is how much every year you've got to pay out, okay? You're selling your packet of biscuits for £1, but the retailer wants 10% of that. So you're now getting 90p for your packets of biscuits. How many packets of biscuits have you got to make in a year to cover your costs here? And then I give them the answer at the end, you know, something like 5 million pack, and they all go, whoa, you know. But it's just trying
that's
to
brilliant.
bring the maths in as well, to make them realise that finance is equally as important within manufacturing, as well as HR, as well as health and safety, as well as quality, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, people, hopefully after this, people will be ringing your phone saying we want to do this, because I'm sure schools are crying out for it anyway. You know, even, you know, socially we talk about, we didn't learn about bills at school, and that sort of touches on it. You know, understanding finances is important, and it's never a lesson anyway for the kids. So,
absolutely.
Closers, do you consider yourself successful?
It's that, oh, no.
Why not?
No, I shouldn't say no. I consider myself successful in that I get into schools and I talk to students, and for me that is success. Every time I go into a school, that is a success without a doubt. Every time a manufacturer signs up with me to say, yeah, we want to do this, that is a success without a doubt. So yeah, I shouldn't say no. It's that imposter syndrome, I think, that always brings out the no, isn't it? You know, but yes, I have successes, but maybe I'm not successful.
Okay. And then successes, would you attribute to hard work or luck?
Hard work. Yeah, absolutely hard work. It is hard work. It's just initially getting those conversations going. And it's hard work trying to connect with some of the bigger manufacturers as well that you know would benefit from your experience and from what I can offer. Because the bigger they are, the less they'll talk to you. Even though, you know, you might comment on the posts, you might try and have conversations with them, you just get silence. and it's quite sad, really, because I look at some of them and I think, do you know what? You could really do so much good for your business if you actually, you know, work with me and get out there and engage in your corporate social responsibility. You know, you could do so much good because your staff would love it as well. If they were going out as well to do some of this, they would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It would show you as a responsible employer.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Well, let's hope that after this, that, you know, if just one of them watches it and contact you and maybe do something. So that is the end of the podcast, really. I just want to say thank you for, you know, being here. Thank you for what you're doing. I think it's extremely important. You're doing an incredible job. I knew what you were doing before today, and I feel inspired. So hopefully people that had never heard of you or seen you before, they're inspired as well. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for asking that.